All right, guys, today I have a very special guest. His name is Rich Penkoski. He is one of the individuals that heckled the Muslim prayer atop of a public parking garage at the University of Southern Florida, which is a public university. We're going to ask him all of the juicy details about his case. There's going to be a couple twisters, and there's a couple things that the media and even the police department got wrong about this one. We did a video about this just a couple days ago, and now we're going to dive even deeper in. The Give, Send, Go for Rich and his legal fees in the description below this video. So if you feel inclined, please go and help him raise some money to pay back these legal fees. Like he said, nobody's coming to reimburse him for these things. These are fees that he's just going to be stuck with as a result of the unconstitutional beratement that he's receiving from the police department in the University of Southern Florida, having to hire lawyers. Rich, can you tell me what happened?
So we went up to the parking garage because in Florida, we did our research as street preachers, and we know that every college campus, state-funded campus, it's free speech. Outdoors, the whole area is free speech. So we had found that they were going to be doing this Muslim prayer and breakfast up at the parking garage, and we said, let's go preach to the Muslims, because after all, our goal is to get them saved. Preach them the truth about Jesus Christ, tell them that we know who their prophet is. And I wanted to enjoy some bacon. I didn't eat breakfast that morning. So we stopped at Wawa, got some coffee, went and got a little cup of bacon, and we went up there to preach to them. And as we did, they did their prayer, as you saw in the video. They finished their prayer, right, which the imam admitted to. And then when they do the left, right, that signifies the end of the prayer. And we had one of the brothers who was telling him, you repent, kind of doing this, whatever. And then one of them grabbed him, and that's kind of when everybody stood up. And, they were saying, come talk to us. And, we had a little heated conversation back and forth, nothing crazy. And then as we were leaving, they followed us. And then the one Muslim went after Brother Ricardo again. And if you watch the video, you see that he had to be held back. And that's when I went on to my thing about how Islam is incompatible with American values, because when they get offended, they react with violence instead of with words or rebukes of their own or what have you. And then afterwards, we went home. Well, we went back. Where'd we go? We went to the church we were staying at before we went to, we had to go to the airport that afternoon to come home. And next thing you know, I see that, there's a police investigation being done on campus. I'm like, what the heck? I've been doing this for 10 years, and I've never had a police investigation due to preaching on campus before.
So
obviously,
I've kind of got two follow-ups there.
Sure.
So they actually touched you guys.
Yes.
Because they made it seem like they were the victims. And did any of your guys touch any of them?
Absolutely not. Matter of fact, if you watch, because now the thing that's interesting is that the media, all the media stories you hear down in Tampa, not a single one of them reached out to us and got our side of it. Nothing. It was all the narrative framed from that Muslim group, the MSA. And if you watch the video, you could see our guys are putting their hands up like this, in that surrender position to make sure it's very clear that we're not putting our hands on them. Our goal is to preach. We're not violent. And if you watch too, we were, at least myself and Chris, we were several feet away as we were preaching. They're the ones who grabbed him, and they're the ones who followed us as we were leaving. But you're right. In their little narrative, it was they stomped around our heads as we were prostrate with their steel-toe boots. And you've seen the video, literally never happened. Literally, they just lied.
So that's one of their main claims, is that you guys stomped around their heads while they were praying?
Right. And did you see the live video?
The live video of...
That I streamed.
I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but I plan to dive into it.
I'll send you a link. You'll see. You could see when they're prostrating down, nobody was even near them. Nobody. It was just a flat-out lie to make themselves look like the victims of something.
Right. And what's going on with charging? I mean, there was, we did a video on this channel when it first happened or a couple days thereafter, and they were talking about, charging you with a felony, seemingly for speech. What's that all about?
To be honest, I don't really know because, again, I've been doing this for years. There's nothing different I did there than I do anywhere else. It's just speech. And, of course, they don't like it. But the campus police decided that for some reason they were going to charge us with disturbing a religious assembly. And because it was, Muslims that we're preaching to, that we targeted them based upon their religion. So they wanted to put a hate crime enhancement on top of that. In addition, they wanted to charge us with disorderly conduct and disrupting a school, which I don't really know how you can do that when the school was closed and we were in the parking garage, but that's what they did.
I'm a little confused. So this is at the University of Southern Florida.
Yep.
And they're charging you with disturbing a religious assembly with an enhancement of a hate crime, or they want to charge you with this.
Correct.
But how can it be illegal to disturb a religious assembly on public property? I mean, it's not like you waltzed into a privately owned church and, stirred some stuff up. I mean, this was in a public parking garage on a public university where everyone's allowed to be. I mean, you don't have to be a student to be at the university, correct?
Correct. And Florida law basically says that all state-funded campuses have to allow people to come on there and preach. They can't stop us. It's the law. So you're right. What they're trying to do is, because the law doesn't define, it says, the law, the statute says that if you gather together to worship God, traditionally it's been churches, mosques, that's how it's understood. But the law doesn't actually say those things. So are we really going to say at this point that a group of people, regardless of whether you're Muslim, Christian, Jew, it doesn't matter, if you gather together, 3, 4, 5, 6 of you, and you're on a public sidewalk, you start praying, is that now considered a religious assembly? And if you dare say anything to them, that now you can be charged with a hate crime?
Yeah. Or what about, like, I don't know, in the middle of the street? Like, it's now that a disruption of a religious gathering, and a lot of people might say, oh, well, then they'd be breaking the law because they'd be in the middle of the street, and they're not allowed to be in the middle of the street. But I mean, were they allowed to be on the roof of this parking garage?
No, and it's funny you brought that up, because one of the MSA students, which is the Muslim Student Association, actually went on the news and admitted that they were told by the school not to be up there, that they were not allowed to have an event up on that parking garage.
Students say the university told them events are not allowed in the parking garages.
We had pitched the idea of an Islamic worship center the same way that there's a Christian worship center and a Jewish worship center on campus. They had told us that it wasn't possible for that to happen. They would accommodate us with space if we needed to pray, but we wouldn't be able to get an Islamic worship center. They were veering away from that as a university as a whole.
Not only that, but because we heard that, I know you did some digging on this and found out the school policy also says you cannot have an event on that campus, in or outdoors, and there is no exception for religion, without express permission from the university. So therefore, it was not an unlawful assembly because it is free speech, but it was an unauthorized assembly on the campus. So if it's an unauthorized assembly, how is it a religious assembly if they weren't even authorized to be up there to begin with?
And correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't that Florida statute rely on the assembly taking place being like an authorized assembly, or does it? I can't remember. Does it not?
It does, but that same statute also requires that the assembly actually be disrupted or impeded,
right,
or stopped or paused for some reason. And that imam in their press conference said 3 times, we finished the prayer. We thought about stopping, but we didn't.
Right.
And we finished. That alone, that statute can't apply. And case law in Florida, I don't know if you actually went this far into it. Of course we have, because we have a lawyer. Case law has repeatedly shown in Florida that every time somebody tries to get charged with this, and as soon as it's revealed that, hey, the assembly or the gathering, whatever, town hall continued, it has to get dismissed because the statute doesn't apply if it was finished and completed.
I mean, do you think they're going to go through with charging you on this? I know it's kind of like in limbo. The FSU University Police are really pushing for it, but it ultimately falls on the state prosecutor, right?
Right. And the state attorney, her name is Susie Lopez, and she is a Ron DeSantis appointee who is a conservative Christian Republican. And, she ran on a platform when she did this last election that she was, tough on crime, and rightly so. She's prosecuted several people that have put their hands on cops, as she should. Nobody should be, putting their hands on police officers. It's crazy. But does she really want to be the prosecutor that implements the Sharia-style speech law in Florida? Does she really want to be that person that does that? And no matter who they give it to in their office, ultimately the buck stops with her. Does Ron DeSantis want that as his legacy? That Florida is now capitulating to care for black, and that's what this is, right? This is a Sharia-style law. That's what they want to implement, and it's not a conspiracy theory. You've seen it. You did a video on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it seems like this is, if this gets charged at all, it's a gross violation of your First Amendment rights. I mean, you have a right, first of all, to be on a publicly funded university campus, but furthermore, to disrupt, I mean, whatever the hell you want, even though I know you didn't physically disrupt this thing. I mean, You guys went in and you did your speech, but the prayer never stopped. But regardless, I mean, you have a right to say and express yourself however you want, whenever. I would almost say that this law is a gross violation of the First Amendment. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a member of a protected class. I mean, you have the right to walk up and down the street screaming the N-word if you want to. Not that you'd ever do that or I'd ever do that.
Right.
But like you have,
but you can if you want to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You absolutely have a First Amendment right to do that.
And those Muslims have a right, if they don't want to go up there and pray in public, they have a right to do that as well. But the fact that they took it in public doesn't give them some magic shield that says, well, because we're out in a public, sidewalk or street or parking garage, which, by the way, is funny because their own Islamic scholars, they're not allowed to pray in garages and parking garages because they're unclean. So that kind of also negates the prayer because it's been repeatedly told they cannot pray. Even the rugs don't shield them from that. But regardless, they have a First Amendment right to do that. But again, it does not give them a magic bubble that says, well, because we're in public, you can't come and preach to us. You can't come and anti-protest if that's what you want to call it. But, otherwise, if they charge this, you're right. The fact that the campus police, think about this. The fact that the campus police want this charge says that they agree that they should have this is the police, right, who enforce the law on the campus, are saying that they should have a magic shield or a bubble that says if you want to go out and pray, hey, nobody can bother you. But then I want them to apply the same logic to the Jewish students that were there when the pro-Palestinians were there. How come the Jewish students didn't get that same protection?
Was there an encampment down there at FSU?
I know recently there was a protest where the pro-Palestinians were against the Jewish students, and there was some violence. And of course, we all know what side the violence came from. And there were several arrests because they put their hands on police officers and whatnot. But again, nobody was charged with disrupting a religious assembly for Jewish students that were assembling, doing something.
A felony hate crime, right?
Bingo.
Yeah. So let me make sure I've got the story straight so far. So you were in a place that you were legally allowed to be with some friends. Mm-hmm. You stumble across, or you find this Muslim prayer happening on a public parking garage in a public place where you're legally allowed to be. You speak out against this prayer because, it doesn't even really matter what your motivations are. They're irrelevant. You have the right to do that and you have the right to be there. You never touched them. None of your friends ever touched them. They touched you guys. And now they're rolling over, playing victim, saying they're afraid of you guys. And the state is weighing whether or not to charge you with a felony hate crime for seemingly violating no constitutional law, at least.
Right. And then if you watch the video, the end of it, after the guy grabbed him, is really interesting because they were standing around talking to us. You can hear one of them say, hey, come be a man. Talk to me. Talk to me. Doesn't exactly scream like a bunch of people that were afraid of us if they're asking us to engage in conversation with them, which we did.
Right, and I saw some photos. I mean, they were like smiling and laughing and snickering, right?
Yeah, hands in the pockets, because I asked them, and I'll tell you flat out. They said that let's have a legitimate conversation. I said, okay, well, how do you defend Muhammad sleeping with a 9-year-old?
So tell me, I mean, how did you find out about this thing? Was this the main event for the day? Did you find out about this Muslim prayer and you went here and this was like your main thing for the day? Was it kind of just a pit stop? How did you hear about it? How did that happen?
So, Brother Chris is actually when we found out about it, and we were sitting at the church the day before, after doing some praise and worship and whatnot and fellowshipping with some other believers. And he said, hey, they're doing this tomorrow. Before we go home, do you want to stop? And my initial thing was, not really. I don't want to get up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm tired. We just been down here all weekend. We preached to Scientologists, which, by the way, the Scientologists didn't even complain about what we were doing. They didn't try to launch a hate crime. But anyway, so Chris had found out about it. We found out it was on a public property. It was not a mosque, because let's make it clear, we would not bust in someone's mosque to do that, because that would be a crime. And we would never do something like that. And we're very good about making sure everything we do is on public property, exercising our religious freedom, our right to religious expression, and our right to free speech. So we said, okay, 10 minutes, literally, that's all this was. It was 10 minutes long, and then we left. And the rest is, as you know, history.
So this isn't just a Muslim thing. Like you protest, you do these protests for lots of different groups, not just Muslims. I mean, you say the Scientology thing was the same day?
That was the day before.
The day before, okay.
Yep, we went down to their headquarters in Clearwater.
Gotcha. And what does that look like? I mean, what do you do when you go down and talk to the Scientologists? Same thing?
Same exact thing. They're meeting for whatever they're meeting for. I don't know what goes on inside because we can't go inside. That's their building, right? That would be disrupting if we went in there. That's their, but we stayed on the public sidewalk. Same thing. And when people came by, as they went in, we'd preach to them. We'd preach to the security guards outside that they had going on. Same thing. I've traveled the country, all over the United States of America. I preach at LGBT events, drag queen story hours, Muslim events. I've even preached outside the Southern Baptist Conference when they got, when that whole scandal was happening when women were being abused. And I've never once, in the decade that I've been doing this, ever been even threatened with a hate crime for doing the same thing. Only in the state of Florida, the free state of Florida, is this even an issue.
And this happened in Hillsborough County, is that right?
Yes.
And can you tell me a little bit about Hillsborough County? I mean, it's my impression is that it's a blue county, right?
It is. I mean, the entire city council's Democrat. The mayor's a Democrat, which is funny because she took a picture with the Muslim students and she's a lesbian. And I asked her a question. I said, do you know what they would do to you if you were in their country?
With those same students?
Yes. Yep. The
Wow.
Hillsborough County sheriffs came out, and the Hillsborough County sheriff said that what we did was not the First Amendment. He actually, the sheriff actually said those words, that we crossed the line and that we did not have a right to say what we said.
What was his justification for that?
Well, he didn't say. He just said, because, just because. I mean, and even if you were offended by what we said, but nothing we said was, because there's a lot of conjecture out there about, I wouldn't have done it this way, but there is a biblical reason for this. If you go back into the Old Testament, Elijah mocked the prophets of Baal. He called on fire from heaven to consume their offering. He mocked them, right? Jeremiah, all the old-time prophets. Paul told someone in Galatians 5:12, I wish those troubling you would emasculate themselves. Jesus called King Herod a fox, and it wasn't because Herod was cute. So we have a biblical pattern of this. I mean, Jesus whipped people. I'm not going to do that, of course, but we have this biblical premise and this biblical narrative to do what we do because we want to reach people. We want to see people saved. And you know what the Bible says in Jude 23? It says, on some have compassion, and on others win with fear. The fear of God, the fear of hell. And then 1 Timothy 5:20 tells us to rebuke everybody if they're in sin publicly so that others around fear sinning. So some people may not understand why we do what we do. And I do not tell every Christian that they should do the things that we do because God has obviously called us for a very specific purpose. But our motive is to see people saved and rescue them from the flames of hellfire because hell is for eternity. And we don't want anybody to go there. I don't care if you're Muslim. I don't care who you are. No, we don't want anybody to go to hell.
So what is so why Muslims? I mean, is there anything? I mean, obviously you just said you want everybody to be saved. Muslims don't believe in Jesus Christ, or they don't believe that Jesus Christ is their Lord and Savior, and therefore they will not get into heaven.
Right.
What is your? I mean, is there anything outside of that, specifically with Muslims, or what's up?
I mean, so when we preach, whether it's Muslims, LGBT events, Scientologists, whatever, obviously our message is tailored specifically to whoever we're preaching to, right? Because I wouldn't go to a Scientologist and start talking about Muhammad to them because it's irrelevant.
Right.
But specifically Islam, you have a prophet that they do worship. They claim they don't, but look at their prayers. They start off. They actually pray to Muhammad. So they are worshiping Muhammad, right? I mean, you ask a Muslim, praying is worship. This man married a 6-year-old. I mean, he consummated the marriage when she was 9, but up until then, between 6 and 9, he was thighing her. Okay, this is a man who called black people raisin heads. This is a man who said hell is going to be mostly made up of women because they're dogs, they're stupid. This is a man who murdered people to push his agenda, if you will. And what most people don't understand is Islam is not a religion. It's a din. It's called din, din. It is an entire way of life, judiciary, sociologically, everything. And they're masquerading as a religion to take advantage of religious freedom laws. Okay, but they are not just a religion. This is an entire society that's been trying to impose its will on us. And this case, and I think this is why it became such a big deal, is because they do want to implement Sharia law. You know, they're trying to make it look like we're right-wing, conservative, crazies, whatever. But the reality is this. We know for a fact that CARE is working with the MSA across this country and teaching them how to do this, to frame this as hate. Because if they can make this a hate crime for simply speaking out against Islam and Muhammad, you now have a Sharia-style hate speech law, a blasphemy law of sorts, if you will, if this is allowed to go through and stand. And that's what the Muslims are trying to do. They're not going to come in here and just say, hey, Sharia law now. They know they can't work that way. So what they're going to do is they're going to stack the deck, right? Now you got the campus police officer saying, we need to charge these guys because we're afraid of whatever. But think about this. What if the state attorney was a Muslim? What if the courts were stacked with Muslims? What if the appeals court was stacked with Muslims? We'd be toast. Even though it's against the Constitution, this is how they implement Sharia law. And until Americans wake up to the reality of this, in 20 years from now, we will have enough Muslims in this country. We will have a Muslim president. That's a fact. And you can fact check me and look that up if you want.
Right. And juxtaposed with, I mean, we just saw 2 National Guardsmen shot, 1 killed, another one in critical condition, roughly a block away from the White House. I mean, how does that juxtapose to you? How are you feeling? What is it? You know, what's going through your head?
Well, as a Navy veteran, you know, it's terrible. You know, one of our brothers and sisters was just murdered for no reason, for doing their jobs, for trying to keep Americans safe and keep our streets, you know, safe so people can walk around and enjoy their life and the pursuit of happiness. The fact is that, you know, people keep saying this guy's mental. No, he wasn't. He was a Muslim. Just say it like it is. I don't know why people are so afraid to just call it like it is. He was a Muslim. And Muslims hate Christians. Muslims hate America. Whether you want to believe that or not is irrelevant. All you have to do is go join their chat groups. Go join their Signal groups, their WhatsApp groups. Go look at their Reddit threads. Look at the comments they're sending to us. I'll send you one that you want to put up later if you want. The police are the ones who caused all this with that statement of theirs saying that we were charged.
Right. I wanted to get into that.
Yet.
I wanted to get into that because initially when I made my video, I said that you guys were charged. And so let's get into that. That's not true. You guys are not charged.
We are not charged. We have not been arrested. And matter of fact, Florida law, those police don't even have the power to charge anybody. All they can do is refer for charges. But they did it the way they did it, number one, to appease CARE. At the end of the day, that was about making CARE happy. Number two, the damage that has caused to our reputations. I've sent you some screenshots of the death threats that I have been getting daily, and I'm talking graphic death threats. Threats to S.A., my wife, and my 11-year-old daughter, from Muslims, by the way. And yet, I've given them over to my lawyer and whatnot. I've given, you know, no one's been charged with anything yet. There's no word about that whatsoever. I posted them publicly. No one's saying a word about it. You know, it's ludicrous. But the cops, the camp. Now, let me just rephrase this. We understand the campus police, not the sheriffs, not Tampa police, campus police. Mm-hmm. They're the ones who caused all this mess because of their wording, in that we have charged them with this and a hate crime. And that set up this firestorm. Their reckless disregard for the truth and the law is what caused all of this, because they wanted to give CARE what they wanted. And now the state attorney is actually reviewing evidence, is what they said in their statement, on something that speech related. I mean, it's insane because of CARE.
In another thing that I wanted to get into, and as long as you're comfortable going here, on the topic of threats to you and your wife and your children, we were talking the other day and you were telling me that there were actually people driving up your driveway.
Yeah. And my house is, without giving too much away, there's a local feminist woman here who doxed my wife and I, who lives in the community, not our community, but in the town I live in. And she put information out there. Now, my house is, you have to, I don't want to say it's a private road, but it's essentially a private road. It's a city highway, not highway, but road, but we're the only house that lives on that road. So if you're going to come up to my street, you don't come up here to turn around or make a wrong. You have to come to my house. Okay. We have a ranch, animals, and everything else. We have all that property. And yes, and police are doing extra patrols around here to be safe, because it's happened to me before with LGBT activists. They've come to my home. They've destroyed my car. They've ripped up taillights of my car. They've popped my airbag suspension. So out of an abundance of caution, the police are actually going to be doing extra patrols around my house to make sure that nothing happens while we're sleeping or, what have you, because of people coming up here and whatnot. And when I went outside, the one car came up, had their headlights up, it was dark outside. I went outside, and when I went out to go down the road to confront them, they quickly turned around and took off.
That's scary, man. I mean, how does that make you feel, being the head of a house with wife and kids?
Well, it makes me feel like number one, it's not a matter of feelings. I'm going to protect my family with everything I got. If I have to give my life for doing so, then so be it. But the fact is, and I don't want to get off of this, those campus police are the ones that created this situation. If they never did that, put that stupid press release out there, none of this would be happening. This is their reckless disregard, and they're catering to a group of people who got offended because I said Muhammad was well, you could fill in that blank, whatever is appropriate for YouTube. Because of that, and because I dare to have a piece of bacon in front of them. So now my life is being threatened. My wife and my 11-year-old daughter specifically, they named her by name, my daughter, are being threatened by people. And I just got a message today from the same guy. He said, I'm still going to, what did he say? Me and the boys, I'll read it to you here real quick. He said, you're going viral for being a foul pig. By the way, me and the boys are still going to dominate your wife. It's right there.
It's disgusting.
And yet, all because we offended them. So we have liberals in America today that are fine with that being sent to me. But don't you dare talk about how bad Muhammad was, and don't you dare tell them that Jesus Christ is Lord.
Right. It's ridiculous, man. It's terrifying, and I'm super sorry that you're having to go through this for legally protected speech that doesn't in any way. I mean, really, what you're condemning is child. I mean,
yeah,
that's the majority of what I heard you talking about. But who cares, right? Like, who cares? Even if you were being wildly offensive to them, obviously people are going to care, but you can't throw people behind bars for that, or show up to people's house and threaten them and their families. It's disgusting.
They can say whatever they want about Christ to me. If they want to say whatever they want to me, you know what? As much as I don't like it personally, you know what? They have a constitutionally protected right to say what they want as well. And I would never try to interfere with that, no matter how distasteful. Now, again, threatening to sexually assault my wife and child, different story. But if they want to come out there and tell me that I'm a heathenist dog or pig, that's okay. They have every right to do that. They have every right to express their opinion.
You wouldn't try to get them arrested for a hate crime for that?
Of course not. And you can go back and look. I get it all the time from these people. I'm this, and hey, you know what? They can say whatever they want. This is America. And I am a free speech absolutist, aside from threatening somebody's life or whatnot. Right. I believe that all American citizens, regardless if I like you or disagree with you, every one of us has a right to say what we want in this country. That's what makes America so unique amongst the rest of the world.
Right. Well, I think we're pretty much at the end of the time limit that I have here for Zoom. I suppose I forgot to sign in. So,
that's right.
Rich, I appreciate you joining me, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Oh, real quick though, because just remember this, brother.
Go ahead.
Even if this all goes away tomorrow, the fees that I've had to incur legally for the lawyer, which he gave a statement in the news, I still have to pay for that. No one's going to reimburse me for that.
Oh, right.
And if you're okay with it, I mean, again, I don't want to, but would you share my Give Send Go with your? I mean, if you're okay with it,
of course.
If you don't feel comfortable, that's fine.
No, of course. We're gonna put the Give Send Go for Rich and his legal fees in the description below this video. So if you feel inclined, please go and help him raise some money to pay back these legal fees. Like he said, nobody's coming to reimburse him for these things. These are fees that he's just going to be stuck with as a result of the unconstitutional beratement that he's receiving from the police department in the University of Southern Florida, having to hire lawyers and have everything squared away.
Yep. Cool deal. Cool. Thanks.